Hi, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Boy in a Tree. And welcome to my first video ever. No, honestly, I've made so many videos, but this feels like this is my first video ever because I'm trying some new things. That's why this is here. I got a new microphone. It's good with picking up my voice. And I'm just trying a bunch of new stuff, especially with, these new times, these new horrible times. And it's keeping me focused, and I've decided, since I have this microphone, I am going to, well, normally what I do on this channel is talk about my first book, Joshua Tree, and my second book, Joshua Tree Finds Peace, which I've done a million times. I've talked about Joshua Tree so many times. But since I'm trying something new, I'm kind of going back and rereading the prologue, which I've actually never done. I'm basically reading this whole book audiobook style. Like, I am being serious about it. I'm going to try and fully read through this book. But I'm going to do it in segments. Like, I'm just going to read the prologue all the way through, and then I'm going to read chapter 1 in another video, and chapter 2 in another video. And then also, to keep it interesting for me, I'm going to read some of my really favorite books all the way through, but in segments too. So I'm going to read like Mistborn. I'm going to read Stoner, which is about a guy named Stoner. His last name is Stoner. He doesn't get high. And then Spring Snow. These are some of my favorite books that I've read that I've really connected with, and I'm sure you will love it too. Okay, look, I understand that reading isn't the most popular thing like ever. It's almost like I think of somebody trying to do a math YouTube video, and like trying to be all excited about it, and I would not. But stories, they have personally, I've really connected with them, and my overall goal is to hopefully maybe one day connect to somebody the way that these books and stories have connected with me. That is my overall goal. And maybe even somebody that hasn't really read before, or isn't really into reading. Man, that would be something special. But this is fun for me, so I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be jumping around in all these books from which sounds kind of crazy, but that's actually it's a way that I've done it. I've read books like this too. I've gone from one book, like I've read a chapter of one book, and then like a couple of days later I then read a chapter from another book. I've done this normally on my own, and it's fun for me, so it's gonna be just fun to try and make videos like that. So it's like I'm gonna be doing audiobook YouTube videos for these, and I'm just gonna have fun with it. And yeah, that's my overall goal, is to hopefully somebody will love it too, just like I do. And so today in this video, I'm going to read the prologue of my book, Joshua Tree. This is my first go at it. I'm going to take it real seriously, and forgive me for any mistakes I made. This is my first time. I'm a little nervous, and I hope you like it. And afterwards, I will talk about it a little bit, about what I just read. So here we go. Her eyes were the last things I saw as I died. They were a beautiful, yet unnatural, glowing shade of gray. They were different from the ones I've known for almost my whole life. They used to be light and warm, filled with life. They were beautiful. I remember how they would complement her smile, like how a blanket complemented a bed, making it warm and cozy. How her eyes would slightly wrinkle on the sides when she smiled. How they used to stare at me, making my feelings for her grow so much stronger. They almost seemed tangible, but fragile. She would look at me, and I would hold my feelings in my hands, plain enough for everyone to see. But I would never be able to hand them to her, because if she didn't accept them, they would fall, shatter, leaving me broken. So many things have changed now. She has changed, and so have her eyes. Literally. They're an unfamiliar, unnatural, ice-cold gray now, yet still beautiful. Her eyes were so unreal, yet the more blood I lost, the softer and slower my breath got, the more real they seemed to look. Shit. I think I've lost too much blood because honestly, I'm not sure any of that made any sense. I'm also being a bit too poetic here, aren't I? I guess this is how somebody thinks when they're dying? But I am just being a boy melting over a girl because I'm dying, okay? Totally not being over dramatic here. This moment felt extremely wrong though. She had so much emotion in her eyes as she held the knife inside me. Even a small tear fell gently down her unnaturally pale face. Why the tear? Regret, I realized, thinking to myself. She didn't want to do this, and yet she firmly held the knife, stabbing me just below my heart, hitting a lung, I think. I started to feel the pain. It hurt so much. It felt like more than a body wound, interestingly, though. It felt like this knife was piercing my soul. Again, maybe I'm not thinking straight. I need to stop thinking about the knife. Okay, back to her face. So pale. It definitely was not human the way she looked, or at least not like a living human. She would not show any emotion across her face anymore, not since she changed. I still remember her before she changed though, the way her nose would slightly wrinkle when she smiled. Sometimes when she laughed hard enough, she would slightly snort, which was possibly the cutest thing you could ever hear. Thinking about it brought tears to my eyes. We stood so close to each other, and this moment felt so intimate. I would really have enjoyed this moment more if, she didn't have a knife plunged through my ribs. We have known each other so long, yet this wasn't the same girl I talked to about life and our dreams for the future. She has changed, yet so have I. I'm sorry. Her mouth barely whispered. I heard the emotions from her, but I could barely see them in her face. Her pale face was straight and emotionless, like a beautiful ice sculpture. Her eyes were where all the emotions lay. That's why they locked me in their stare. I attempted to say, "It's okay," but I kind of just sputtered. Can't really blame me. Some blood fell down my chin. Lord, I probably looked gross right now. Why was this okay though? Why could I so easily forgive the person that was killing me? Well, I guess the answer to these questions is pretty easy and painfully obvious to you by now. I love her. Just a boy in love with a girl. I felt this way about her for years and never knew if she felt the same. Probably not, considering I was dying by her hand. What would be the point of dying with hate though, right? She pulled the knife out. My brain did not agree with the amount of blood loss that came after that. My head swam and I fell forward as she caught me. She threw the knife away and I glanced at it as it clattered to the ground. It looked like a regular knife with a black wooden handle, except that it had some strange markings on the handle and on the flat part of the knife, which was covered in my blood now. What a cool knife, I thought to myself, my head feeling woozy like I was drunk. At least I got killed by a cool knife. She slowly brought me down onto the road, now slightly wet with my blood too. She slowly flipped me over on my back, holding my head up. She was so careful of me. I was probably looking as pale as she was at this point, although I know I definitely didn't look as great. I felt myself uncontrollably shaking a bit. I was so cold. It's strange, the moment you realize you're actually going to die. I'm so sorry, she whispered again. I wish it didn't have to be like this. I didn't even have a chance to attempt to respond this time. Everything faded away too fast. That's when the weight of life lifted, and I came face to face with God once again. Whoa. Well, I hope you enjoyed that that reading of my first book, Joshua Tree, the prologue. So that was just, well, that was the first time I ever did that. I hope I get better, man. I'm gonna keep practicing, like, the inflection of my voice. I'm gonna really try and practice, that talking. I'm gonna really practice reading. In the next video, I'll probably try and read the first chapter of Stoner, which is the book about a guy. His last name is Stoner. He doesn't get high. But I'm going to try and read that chapter. And so with that prologue, I again, I wrote this back when I was like 17. I was like 17. I'm 24 now. And I wrote that a long time ago. And so, man, rereading it took me back. And obviously, it's about a boy who's getting stabbed by a girl. I'm just going to generally talk about it. And he obviously was trying to try and unfocus from the pain and focus on her and how attractive she was. But obviously, he was very overwhelmed by the whole situation, and then he ended up dying, clearly. And he, yeah, that's generally what I just read. One question, I'm sure there's probably tons of questions. It'll make sense, obviously, as the story goes on, of kind of what happened in that prologue. Eventually, that'll make sense in the future. But one question I know that somebody will have is, is that girl in that first prologue, the first thing I ever wrote as a young little teenager, was that actually based on a real girl? Ooh, good question. If somebody asks that question in the comments down below, I will answer it as honestly as I want to. In the next video, I will answer that question if somebody asks it. If somebody doesn't ask it, I'm just gonna blow over it and pretend like this never happened. But if somebody asks, anybody, I don't care who, if somebody asks in the comments, I will answer that in the next video. So yeah, and that's kind of it. In the next time I'll do a video, I'll probably be reading this book. I'll talk a little bit about it too. And I hope, again, somebody enjoys it. So stay connected. See you guys next time.